This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now, where we bring you the 3 E's: educate, empower, and engage. I'm your host, Harvey Blankfeld, along with our co-host, Shelley Brown, and we've been selling homes here in Southern Nevada since 1988. Shelley and I are also very proud to be part of the Real Estate Radio Network. That is a national network of local real estate professionals delivering timely, balanced truths about local market conditions. With us in studio with Shelley and I, we have Darren Welsh. He's a real estate attorney. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you for having me.
Darren, I want to talk about some recent changes to the appraisal section in our contract. Galvar has their contract, and they've changed the verbiage in the appraisal area. And it's somewhat significant in what they've done. Can you explain what they've done?
So, as you know, during most purchases, when you're borrowing money to buy a house, you would use an appraisal. Mm-hmm. And that is the way that the lender knows that the value of the home is pretty close to what the two parties have agreed for the sale price to be. In the past, what's happened is if the appraisal comes in at a lower price than the sales price, then the contingency was automatically written in that the buyer had the option to cancel. Mm-hmm. And the seller had the option, or the buyer and the seller could come back together and decide if they wanted to change the price. But first and foremost, the buyer was in control.
Right.
And the buyer had the right to cancel. Mm-hmm. And that has recently been changed.
Mm-hmm. So now the buyer can't automatically just cancel if the appraisal comes in low.
So if the appraisal comes in low and the seller says, I'm going to reduce, the buyer's locked into the deal, is what you're saying.
That is the new formatted language. There's 3 options. So they say the appraisal comes in low. Now we have, instead of 2 options, which used to be either cancel or the buyer elects to renegotiate with the seller.
Right.
Now it's 1, 2, 3. First one is the seller has the right to simply lower the price and match the price to the appraisal. And the second one would be that the parties can renegotiate if the seller does not want to do that. And if the parties cannot come up with a renegotiated deal and the seller is not electing to lower the price, then the buyer has the right to cancel.
Got it. The significant difference there is the buyer does not get the automatic right to cancel if the seller is willing to reduce to the new appraisal value.
That's correct.
Okay. So what this does is but the seller has to come all the way down, whatever that down is.
But why did they make this change?
There's a lot of mysteries in the world. And one of them is when you get a bunch of realtors together and start writing forms. It's sort of like going to the legislature. Like, why do we have the laws that we have, right?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I think what it does is it still kind of puts the seller in a situation where if they don't reduce all the way, you're still negotiating. So if the seller's not willing to do that, this deal's still not going to happen.
That is correct.
So I guess while you've taken one element away from the buyer still, and the reason we're concerned about that is because the buyer, when the appraisal comes in that low, the buyer may not want the house.
That is a concern. I mean, that's obviously where your mind would go to, because if the sales price is X and the appraisal comes in quite a bit lower, the buyer may be concerned.
Let me take the perspective of the people who made it this way. If the buyer was willing to pay that number, why would they not be willing to pay the lower number? I mean, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, yeah.
Yeah, unless they already were scared and wanted out of the deal.
There was another reason. That's what I'm saying. There's probably another reason. It could be an excuse.
You've been listening to Las Vegas Real Estate Now with hosts Harvey Blankfeld and Shelley Brown. Please tune in every Saturday at 11 a.m. right here on News Talk 720 KDWN.